Good morning. I'm Mary Jo Hancock, President and CEO of the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation. Thank you for joining us for Changemakers, where we celebrate the transformative work happening right here in Nebraska to strengthen families and build vibrant communities. In our 45 minutes together, you'll have the opportunity to learn how our initiatives working alongside our community partners are not only uplifting families and youth, but are driving the economic success of our state. Be prepared to be inspired by stories of impact and innovation that are shaping a brighter future for Nebraska. Joining you this morning from Freight Farm, an innovative educational tool. And here to tell you a little bit more about Freight Farm is my colleague, Jeff Cole.
Hi, I'm Jeff Cole. I'm Network Lead for Beyond School Bells. That's Nebraska Children and Families Foundation After School and Summer Learning Network. And we're here in Freight Farm, which is a state-of-the-art commercial and growth space that we've co-opted to use as part of Nebraska's after-school and summer learning initiatives. So this is a kind of the crown jewel where young people who started learning their passion about gardening in an after-school garden continued on with a grow tower in their middle school. They can come out here and get hands-on experience in the future of ag, in our hopes of training the next generation of workers who will be driving Nebraska's economy with 21st century agriculture and beyond. Our hope is that through experience with something like Freight Farm, they will dream up the next generation of agricultural innovations that will keep Nebraska at the forefront of America and the world's agricultural economy.
Once again, thank you for joining us this morning. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's discussion, Dr. Lawrence Chatters, Chair of the Nebraska Children Board.
Thank you so much, Mary Jo. Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live from right here in Omaha, Nebraska. My name is Dr. Lawrence Chatters, and I serve as the Director for Community Partnerships and Strategic Initiatives at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And as Mary Jo mentioned, I'm also the very proud chair of the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation Board. You know, I'd like to thank all of our organizations for being a part of this great event today, and I'd like to send a special shout out to the Buffett Early Childhood Fund, to NASCA, and also the OPS Foundation. Once again, thank you so much for your support, and a special thank you to Kalita and Misty for making this event possible today. Today here with me is an excellent group of panelists who are ready to share how Nebraska Children and Families Foundation is working in local communities to build supportive preventative networks, giving employees a place to turn when they need it and assistance, and a sustainable workforce, as we all know, includes those that can afford housing, find childcare, and have reliable transportation. Our panelists today include Casey Balitz, Director of Nebraska Department of Economic Development, Amanda Jurek, a workforce recruiter, and Jennifer Scala, the Executive Vice President for Nebraska Children's. Thank you for joining us this morning. Panelists, if you could please take a moment just to describe your role within the Nebraska workforce development. We'll start with you, Casey.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Good morning, everyone. I think I'll take a statewide perspective on that, and so I think the role or the challenge for us is working with the businesses who are here and the businesses who would like to be here. And today, that conversation very often does revolve around workforce development or talent. It's, if not the first question, it's one of the first two or three that they ask. And so we're living in this world all day, every day.
Thank you.
Good morning, and I'm very blessed to be here and appreciative to share what we're doing in central Nebraska. My involvement in workforce development comes from initially a corporate human resources background here in Omaha, where I worked for many years with a global software company. But in central Nebraska, I am more ag focused. So we are small business owners. We have 2 beef cattle livestock markets, which definitely take employees. And then I'm very connected in the community to help them with community issues. And workforce is a huge issue in central Nebraska. As well as being a small business owner myself, I have a niche recruiting firm, work across the United States, but also do work in Nebraska.
Excellent, excellent. Jennifer.
Yes, and thank you, Dr. Chatters, and thank you, everyone, for being here. I've been with Nebraska Children and Families Foundation for 18 years, and so as Mary Jo mentioned, we were founded to strengthen families and communities, and I would just say our role right now is, I'll just mention 3 things. One is to provide professional development to the helping workforce, which my understanding is one of the largest industries in Nebraska. 2, through our initiatives and our community collaboratives, we are working to ensure workers have a built community, that they can have accessible services and supports they need every day to have the responsibility to their family. And 3, we provide professional and career and life skill and technical education to our young adults in this state so that they can be professional and be successful in their employee positions.
Outstanding. Well, thank you all for being here. We're really excited to hear from you this morning. Let's go ahead and dive right in. And folks, if you happen to have a question for our panelists, please go ahead and type it in the chat. We will have a Q&A later, so just go ahead and get those questions in as they come up, and we'll address them later. Panelists, could you please describe the workforce challenge in your current community or your role right now?
Sure. So again, looking at that from a statewide lens, Department of Economic Development's mission is to grow Nebraska, if we're going to put that simply. And the challenge today for us to achieve that mission really does often revolve around finding enough talent. So, you know, depending on the source or the number you want to believe, it's anywhere from maybe 30,000 on the low end, maybe 80,000 on the top end of open jobs available in Nebraska. But the reality is that those open jobs don't reflect the opportunity that we're losing because businesses can't expand like they want if they can't find the talent, right? It's pretty self-evident. So that's really the challenge in the big picture. And then specifically that revolves around recruiting more bodies to Nebraska, period. It revolves around retaining the young people who are graduating from Nebraska schools, universities, et cetera. And it revolves around closing or minimizing the skills gap, because we really can't afford to have people in those working ages that don't have the skills they need to really be employed productively. And so it's really all of those things that all roll up into what I would describe as primarily a demographic challenge. You know, this year's graduating senior class in Nebraska high schools will be the largest among all 12. The kindergarten class is the smallest. Well, that's a trend that we're going to have to do something about if we want to continue to grow Nebraska's economy.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to back up and just a little bit about our community. So Buffalo County is our county. We have about 50,000 residents, and Kearney as a community is just under 35,000. So we're not a big workforce to start with. We do have 2.9% unemployment, so everyone that is able to work is typically working, which is a very positive thing. We have just over 70% of our individuals that are at workforce age working. But unfortunately, we have a 15% poverty rate. So 15% of our county and community are living at or below poverty. And that's something that we need to work on. And how do we do that? By employment. And not only employment, but by rising employment levels and skill levels and increasing income opportunities. So in central Nebraska, we have ag, of course, basic ag and specialized ag, but we have some major employers in our area. We have Parker Hannifin, we have Midland Molding, we have Cashway, we have the educators, the University of Nebraska at Kearney, Central Community College. We have a huge hospitality offering in our area, and we have healthcare providers, and then energy. Kappa Ethanol Holdings is there with multiple plants. So we have such a need. Our issues revolve around not having enough employees, not having enough skilled people, but also barriers to individuals being able to perform, to get to work, to stay at work. So retention is also a huge issue. And the issues that you talked about earlier, the lack of quality childcare, we have virtually no public transportation in our area. Food insecurity is another huge issue that our families and children are all facing. And then housing. We have limited housing availability, and the housing is incredibly high. So those are the issues that we're facing today.
Thank you.
As Amanda and Casey mentioned, we are working to address the retention, the sustainability, the recruitment of families, because they all need and are looking for communities, and they're looking for family efforts that allow for the company, and he has a general contractor that helps with all the subcontractors in building a building. And we need to do the same for our communities and make sure all of those supports and services families need, the holistic supports they need, are available to them so they can be best at their jobs. We do this also through a number of our initiatives, our lifespan initiatives and our early childhood work. We are addressing quality childcare slowly but surely. We're trying to get through this childcare crisis, but our C4K efforts, which you'll hear more about, we do work in our home visitation and other early childhood efforts on social emotional well-being so that families are supported with their young children the best they can. We do work in the middle years for before and after school, as already mentioned in the video. And we have our older youth work that has some of the best retention and successful rates in the country when it comes to post-secondary and career attainment. So through all that, we are supporting communities to focus on the challenges that were already mentioned, but we also need a lot more support.
Well, thank you very much. It sounds like there's a wide range of challenges, but at the same time, it sounds like Nebraska Children's and some of the other organizations are very much working in collaboration to try to address these issues. But it seems like, there are some significant challenges, but it's good to have people like yourselves who are thinking about these things on a daily basis and coordinating the efforts to take care of these challenges. So thank you again. Let's take a moment to learn more about one of the sustainable workforce initiatives that Nebraska Children and Families supports.
Greetings from Nebraska City. My name is Dan Mock. I'm the economic developer for Nebraska City and Otoe County. When I started this position in 2016, no economic developer in the whole state was talking about childcare. However, by 2017, I had both Cargill, our largest employer with 700 employees, and St. Mary's Hospital with about 200 employees asking me to help them get childcare started. They were seeing absentee problems. They were seeing people increased turnover because if somebody wasn't able to find a safe place for their children, they didn't show up at work. And I thought it'd be an easy thing to solve, like starting any small business. Boy, did I get an awakening when I figured out how complicated, expensive, and how low the margins were in childcare. Since that time, every economic developer across the state is facing the childcare issue. It's a three-pronged problem. We're trying to create jobs. We need employees for those jobs. They need a place to live, so there's housing shortages, and they need a safe place for the children. Communities for Kids was a savior for us. It gave us access to some funding that helped us make an impact. And we have a large gap to fill. It's a problem that's left largely unsolved. The business model is broken, but we've added 12 licensed child cares, including 2 centers. We've increased the capacity by about 120 children, but we've got more to do. But I want to thank Nebraska Children and Families for the help they're giving us. Thank you.
That's some really impactful stuff. Let's move on to our next questions. Panelists, can you tell us about the strategies that you use to address those workforce development challenges that you shared with us? And if any partnerships that you are currently engaged in, talk a little bit about some of those partnerships as well.
All right. Well, there are lots of partnerships. Really following along with what my friend Dan just shared from Nebraska City. It is an extraordinary shift in the world of economic development that he described, where not very long ago, as an economic development organization, whether state or local, we would never have been involved in childcare, housing, any of these issues. Today, they are core economic development issues. And so we are investing time and energy in these sorts of pursuits as opposed to the traditional, recruit a job using cheap land, cheap power, et cetera. It's just a very different equation. And so that has brought partnerships into play that have just never needed to exist before. So, and the other thing I should say as a general statement on that too is certainly want everyone to understand it is a new world in economic development, but all of these solutions are going to be, generally speaking, community-based. They're all going to happen in a place, in a community, with an employer, whatever. The state or even federal resources are great, necessary. We want to partner, but that is the word. We have to partner in a community with a business. And so it's really important that all of you watching across the state understand that you're actually where it all starts. It has to be that way. It has to be community-centric, community-driven, because the solutions are going to be different. So what are we doing? Probably our primary effort at the moment is a relaunch, let's call it, of the Good Life is Calling campaign to recruit and retain talent in Nebraska. The legislature in the governor's budget appropriated $5 million for us to execute on that in this fiscal year, just getting to the point of rolling that out. And in fact, I'll give some of you or all of you a sneak peek on something that should be coming out by the end of the month, early next month. Will be an opportunity for communities or businesses or coalitions to submit experiments in this people attraction or workforce development space that you'd like to take. And we'll have a little money to catalyze those experiments with, because we want to learn from Nebraskans all across the state some innovative and creative ways to address this problem. We'll undertake a significant marketing campaign. We've already begun doing outbound marketing events where we went to Colorado Springs last week. We'll be in Chicago coming up to share the good life with people who may not be aware of the opportunities here in Nebraska. But, just again, as Dan described, it's sort of a three-headed monster, and we're addressing all those in housing. 3 years ago, the state put $17 million out in housing. This year, last fiscal year now, it was $117 million. So we are investing in housing. Child care is an issue that the unicameral just gave us a program to run. It isn't launched yet because there isn't funding yet, but it's provided a platform for DED to become involved in child care. We won't ever be the state's lead. We shouldn't be on that issue, but it's a great indication of how things have changed that the unicameral wanted DED engaged in this child care conversation as well. We're undertaking a very cool internship experiment with our friend Jeff Cole, who you saw a few minutes ago, where we're going to tie together the after-school work that Beyond School Bells is doing with an internship to kind of close the loop between STEM education in primary grades through high school right on into a job in a local employer. Very excited about that experiment, as well as Intern Nebraska, powered by the Exarban Foundation. Obviously, we're putting real money into internships all across the state with their partnership. And we really believe firmly that internships are a key tool here to show Nebraska young people that we have great careers right here in their hometowns. We really do. So excited about that. It's just a whole menu of things. And again, I think the key message here is they're all going to happen through a partnership, all of them. So communities, businesses, organizations, regions, coalitions, whatever, we got to come together and get to work.
Thank you. All right.
Excellent. All right. So my work predominantly in my community and workforce development focused is through Buffalo County Community Partners. I am a very proud board member. I've been on that board around 5 years, and I have seen an incredible shift from being an entity that is a doer to an entity that is a connector. Through the help with the Nebraska Children's Organization and their expertise in funding, we have moved and embraced a collective impact model. And that model has been very successful for us It is all about sharing interests, resources, time, talents, and expertise to achieve a larger impact. And so how we do that is by building collaboratives. So Buffalo County Community Partners has a more formalized structure where we can ensure, and our goal, our 2030 mission is to ensure a healthy community by making sure our community members of all ages understand the services that are available, and that will help them. If you have childcare issues, if you have housing issues, if your stomach is hungry, your children are going to school hungry, if you don't have appropriate housing, you can't focus on your work and you can't focus on being a productive worker. So we are building those collaboratives with employers in the area. We have started a Prosperity Partner Program, which is still in early stages, but we're making inroads. And that model is based on being a support and developing a coaching volunteer program that will be offered to employees at our employers in the area and the county that will help them, that will guide them, and be with them as they walk through these issues and these struggles in their life. So it takes burden off of the employers, it takes burden off of those leaders within that employment situation, and it gives an external contact, a personal touch to an individual in our community that's struggling with any of the issues that we've talked about. And we share with them, and we have a very structured model to ensure that they're aware of the services that are available, because so many times they're not. So many times our employers are not aware of the actual services that are available in our community. So we're pointing people to those. We're helping them engage in their future, to elevate themselves to have higher income positions and to be retained at work. That is so important with us. We have connected with 825 businesses. We've served and touched over 3,000 individuals in our community with our services, and we're very, very proud to launch our Prosperity Partner Program to help employers, but mostly people and our community members.
Yes, thank you, Amanda, for all you're doing, and Casey for all that you're doing to grow Nebraska and getting to the good life. So we want to be a partner with all here and everybody possible, but I will just talk about a few additional things building on what Amanda was talking about in the community collaboratives. Last year, through the community collaboratives, there's 23 of them across the state. They served over 70,000 people, just as Amanda just mentioned. And so we really want to make that partnership between businesses and community, and to know the resources and to start addressing what is the gaps and start to fill them, as we've mentioned, all the barriers that are in the way. The central navigation function wakes up every day in the community to organize those resources, know what's available to them, and to provide the coaching and other assistance to families and to youth that do want that support or need that support. So it's an easy referral, and there's no wrong door, and there's a closed loop to make sure that goal is met with those youth and families. So through all of that, we really are working to address the disparities and disproportionality that we see in higher end systems. We know higher end systems of care cost a lot of money in this state, and we want to avoid that and create these community-based well-being systems that are for families. We want to ensure educational access from early childhood to post-secondary. Again, we do all of this through all these partners. There's over 1,500 partners involved in all these community collaboratives working on these goals. We want to ensure young adults and the young adult parents get what they need to ensure that they can be in the workforce and to be successful in life. We want to ensure the family and school partnerships that are available in the communities are coordinated and that can get the best education outcomes. We want to ensure that there is economic and concrete supports, and that includes legal services, rental and utility assistance, tax credits even, and developmental accounts. We have Opportunity Passport for our young adults that does a match savings account. So they have their own goals that they're trying to achieve in their asset, and we match that to be able to ensure they have a house, or that they have a car even, or if they have other barriers that they're trying to obtain. So through all that, we have created a statewide plan that exists amongst the Bring Up Nebraska network. And to bring up Nebraska, we have 20 state partners involved, a lot of private philanthropists, and then these 23 collaborative that include all of their partners, including youth and families. And our goals are to be able to create the most robust, vibrant community well-being system in the nation.
That's amazing. I really appreciate all the perspectives, and it's great to not only hear and see things on this panel from a 30,000-foot view, but to hear and see the process by which you go all the way from there down to the ground regarding how things are happening in communities across the state. We're hearing about the issues, we're hearing about the challenges, but we're also hearing about the solutions, and that's always amazing to hear. You all are a great part of what makes Nebraska great, and also, you know, Nebraska Children's relies on these partnerships, and so we really appreciate what you all are doing to make these things happen. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a very special award. Each year, the Grace Abbott Award is given to remember those who have laid the foundation for progress. Grace Abbott, born in Grand Island in 1878, was a dedicated social worker and an advocate for women, immigrants, and children. She represented the United States in the League of Nations and contributed to the Social Security Act of 1935 under President Franklin Roosevelt. Her legacy of compassion and courage lives on through this award. Nebraska Children's is honored to present the 2024 Grace Abbott Award to Peter Kiewit Foundation. Since 1979, the foundation has embodied Mr. Kiewit's belief that Nebraska is the best place to live. Their support spans college access and success, youth development, economic development, and community capacity. These priorities align closely with our goals, making them an invaluable partner.
Thank you, Wendy and Pat, for being a champion for children and for all the support and the opportunities you provided to children and youth through your support of our work. So I'm so excited to present you with the Grace Abbott Award.
Thank you, Mary Jo. One of the goals of the Peter Kiewit Foundation is to improve the access and availability of out-of-school time programs for youth living in underserved communities. And the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and Beyond School Bells are strong partners for us in trying to create that work across Nebraska. They not only advocate for quality out-of-school time programs and for additional resources, they also provide capacity building. They help to provide professional development. Communities help and work with them to develop sustainable plans. They infuse quality curriculum and STEM activities and exposure into these programs. And so for all of those reasons, we're so pleased to partner with Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and really in accomplishing our shared goals together.
And congratulations. It looks like and sounds like every investment helps in achieving the goal of a more sustainable workforce. And if you're interested in supporting Nebraska Children's, just go ahead and use that QR code. You can definitely help contribute. Panelists, here's kind of an imagining question, a question of ideation and possibility. How would having all the necessary employee supports in place, including childcare, affordable housing, reliable transportation, access to healthcare, food security, help to solve the workforce needs that we have talked about today? And also, how can Nebraska employers help?
Yeah, good question. I think I'll maybe take a little different spin on this because I know my fellow panelists are probably going to be able to dive in a little deeper on that question. But I'm going to start by sort of framing it in this way. I mean, first of all, obviously, if you have all the necessary supports for your employees, your team at work, they're going to be more productive. They're going to show up every day, all those things. Clearly, that is a fundamental or foundational truth. So there's no question it's significant. But from my seat, the spin I'm going to take on this question maybe is that all of us in community, I think, can help employers understand that. But I'm going to say even more specifically, we can help local leaders on county boards and city councils and economic development organizations understand that too. Going back to the point that I made a little while ago, these are all factors that would never have been part of an economic development conversation not very long ago. And so you have board members in these organizations all across the state who may not be aware that they should be thinking about helping with childcare, housing, transportation, all those things. Because the shift to all of economic, not all, lots of economic development being driven by talent has really shifted all those priorities in significant ways. And in fact, I know we have folks across the state that just aren't aware of that yet. And until they're aware of it, they can't address it, right? So I think all of us can have a role in answering this question and helping get to solutions, not necessarily directly, but by helping those in those leadership positions just be aware of the changing realities that your local economic developer or chamber or whatever is working with your employers on. And then on the second part of the question, how can employers help? I want to start that by saying I believe firmly, and I would hope you would echo this, that Nebraska employers are more open to these conversations than they've ever been. And I think it's by necessity, right? You know, it's clear that we need a workforce. We need that workforce to be engaged and show up day to day, and they can't do that without addressing some of these things. So Nebraska employers are very open to these conversations, investing in whatever way is appropriate in childcare, housing, et cetera. But I think that's the key. How is it appropriate for an employer to invest? It may not be that having a childcare site on their site is really the best way for an employer to invest. It may not be. So communities, collaboratives working together with employers to determine how is the right way for a particular employer, a particular business community to come together and make progress on these. I think that's an important conversation. And the audience for today's event is a great place for that conversation to start, right? But I think Nebraska employers are ready to have those conversations and figure out how to move the needle in their business, but also in their community as a whole. I really firmly believe that.
Excellent.
Wonderful. I think the most important thing for employers and that we need are for them to remain innovative, open to new ideas and different ideas. We have to do things differently to impact our communities today. They need to be creative, and they need to connect with collaboratives to co-design solutions. I think that's the issue. We have to work together to design solutions that not only meet our community needs, but also meet the needs of that business. So it's really taking a two-prong approach. It's being aware of your business, but as an HR professional, it's being engaged with your employees, understanding the needs of your people, and using resources, co-designing resources to help them with these challenging areas in their lives. We have employees in Kearney that have been so blessed to be part of employers who have gone an incredible extra mile to build housing for them. There's not housing available. What has one of our large hospitality employers done? They've actually built housing. They've also actually looked at opening their own childcare center. Now, back to a point made earlier, they were very surprised at the cost, the expense, and the low margin in that business. But I think it's being innovative, being open to new ideas, and really working together as collaborative units within our communities to meet the needs of the people. If the needs of the people are met, the business needs are going to be met and exceeded.
Jennifer.
Couldn't be said better. So I just want to reiterate, we already mentioned that Nebraska is known for the good life. And we also know that the good life is wonderful for some, but it's more accessible to some than others, right? And so we really need to do more to get the partnerships in place to be innovative. We will then see a vibrant community. The hopes and your dreams and what you are able to do all come from those community of supports that you grew up in. And so these children need to have that hope, and we need more partnerships and more ability to make sure that successful work and retention occur in Nebraska. So with that, employers can help with supporting our initiatives that have already been mentioned, our Communities for Kids, our Beyond School Bells, our Connect Youth Initiative. They can get to be part of these initiatives by entering through their community collaborative. They can make referrals to central navigation and be part of that. It saves your human resources a lot of time and energy by just tapping into the known community resources that the central navigation and the community collaboratives know all about. They can support being an ally, be a volunteer in these communities, into these programs, and help, again, with that individualized coaching to parents and to families and to youth so that they do have that hope and can achieve all that they are wanting to achieve. So thank you.
Excellent. So again, it's great to just hear about the challenge, which is making sure that we intentionally support employees and employers to not only go on that journey of figuring out what's available, but understanding the needs of the employees for the employer's perspective, and then being able to intentionally connect those employees to the resources in their communities to help make sure that they have what they need. And we all know, of course, at the center of a lot of that is providing support for those families and their children, and making sure that their children are, able to thrive. And I think that, of course, makes a better employee, right? And so just thinking about all those challenges that are out there right now, it's great to know that Nebraska Children's is really trying to help with that. And all of these small investments make a difference. So let's take another opportunity to learn about how Nebraska Children's is helping to build our workforce.
Hey, do you really think CCLC can help us no matter our major?
Yeah, of course. It's designed to be a springboard for everyone. Think about the workshops and networking.
I'm still undecided. Can it really benefit someone like me who hasn't picked a path yet?
Yeah, I was actually in your shoes, and CCLC helped me find different fields, and I even landed an internship.
Exactly. CCLC provides resources applicable to any major, from communication to leadership.
But can it really impact our career prospects?
Yeah, totally. Companies value diverse backgrounds. CCOC helps you stand out no matter what you study.
I guess that's reassuring. What kind of events do they host?
They have career fairs, guest speakers, and skill building workshops.
Plus, the connections you make can lead to unexpected opportunities.
Maybe I should give it a shot.
You won't regret it. CCOC is the ultimate tool for building the future.
All right, I'm in. Let's explore together.
All right. Excellent. And, always great to have a little bit of humor involved in there as well. Let's go ahead and take some questions from the audience and panelists. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of put some of these questions in your court, and you can answer these questions. So first, Casey, you mentioned partnerships and getting started at the local level. So they want to know, do they connect with you? Do they connect with Nebraska Children? What does that look like from your perspective?
I'd say, first of all, no wrong door. We're going to pass these things around to get them to the right place, so no wrong door. But clearly, it's going to depend on the topic. Mm-hmm. And there are things that Nebraska Children and Families is going to be well suited. There's going to be things that we can help connect to. We have field staff from DED all over the state, and that's what they do. They answer those questions. They connect communities to resources, just as many of the folks that work for Nebraska Children and Families Foundation are out there around the state doing it. So probably, dependent upon the situation, but I would again stress, no wrong door. Reach out. Between all of us in this environment, we'll find a way to get to the community the resources they need.
Excellent. Amanda, you mentioned coaching with individuals in your community. How does that work, and how is Nebraska Children's assisting with that?
Sure. So this goes back a ways. We've had some initiatives within Buffalo County Community Partners that go back about 3 years, and we had a community response team that, through a referral process, through service providers in the community, when they had needs that they couldn't meet, or individuals that were in crisis situations that they felt we could assist with in directing them, in supporting them, we received those referrals. They would go through a structured process, and we would make a decision if we could help through funding, which often was provided by Nebraska Children's. And those varied from getting steel-toed boots for work to paying 2 weeks of childcare that was required for a mom to start a new job. She was ready, she was excited, but she didn't have the 2 weeks of childcare payment that she needed. So we were able to provide that for her so she could start employment. Her children were in a safe, healthy environment, and it worked. Through that program, we've developed into the Prosperity Partners. And that, again, is where we're reaching out to employers. We're developing a model that we hope will eventually be self-sustainable from a funds perspective. Because if we can show support and increase retention, increase skills for employers of those employees, their cost goes down, their profit goes up. We want to make that impact, help them. It's all connected. If people are doing better, businesses are doing better, and communities are thriving. I have so many examples that I can talk about. We have another individual that I personally coach, and she was struggling because she had some health issues. She missed some work. She actually is a mental health support individual in our community, so very familiar. But she didn't know quite all the services that were available. And so personally, I coached her. I worked with her through a process. We set some goals. She is in a Habitat house, but she was unable to make her mortgage. She was short. And so we went through our network and found funding for her. There was still a gap, and she needed to make that payment. And so we were able to provide her funding through this program to enable her to feel safe and secure and remain in her housing. So we're just so excited about launching this Prosperity Partner Program, about recruiting additional volunteers to coach people and to have long-term relationships. I think that's the other thing that's important, is this isn't just a one-time coaching. This is a relationship that will be developed with individuals outside of their employer. And so it's a very non-threatening model. We've also found that we have 5% or less of individuals return for services in what we've been doing. So that tells us the model's working.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Jennifer, I have one here for you. You say that you want to be sure all these opportunities can happen. How does Nebraska Children lead and support that?
We do that through our partnerships. We lift up even individuals that have been impacted so that they can co-create solutions in the communities. We provide the resources, like Amanda has been mentioning, through private and public funding, but we also provide the technical assistance and training. We put people on the ground to guide through processes and just help develop the partners' plans. At the state level, we are able to lift up barriers, and especially during the pandemic, state partners met every Thursday night and lifted up every barrier that was going on in communities so that something could be addressed. We continue to do that through the Bring Up Nebraska network, more on a monthly basis now, but we are able to start putting resources, blending resources, addressing barriers administratively. Our legislative partners also, through advocacy, try to lift up some of the major things that need to have happen in our state to create the conditions for thriving and workforce development.
That's excellent. It's great to hear how all of these pieces are fitting together. And then this final question came in for me as what makes me want to engage with Nebraska Children and Families Foundation. And when I was first made aware of this organization back in 2019, first of all, I didn't really know anything about the organization itself, but a lot of the people that I've worked with over my career in mental health up to that point had benefited from the services of Nebraska Children's in a way. And what I believe is that this organization really not only does significant partnership and intentional connections of resources, but they really work behind the scenes to make sure that, children and families can thrive. And, one of the things I was keenly aware of growing up is that as a child, I did not choose my family. And the challenges that we experienced and some of the struggles that we went through, those weren't necessarily my fault as a child, but I did recognize that there were other people in the community who were blessed enough that they could make sure that families and people like myself were taken care of. And that's something I believe that is central to what Nebraska Children's does. There's a wide range of people who are thinking about other people's children and families and trying to make connections to make sure that those families can thrive. And so that's something that's important to me, and it's one of the reasons that I take this organization so seriously and my work with the organization. So we've really covered a lot today. And panelists, I just wanted to give you one more opportunity to have any last thoughts that you wanted to share with the audience at this time. So we'll start with you, Casey.
I'll just reiterate that the more all of us can do to help people understand that economic development has really fundamentally shifted, and that opens up some doors that maybe weren't open before. That all of those activities are going to happen at a community level, or even more specifically within an organization or employer. So it all has to start there with all of you around the state, bringing great ideas and innovations forward that can help move the needle. And also that the time is now. We cannot afford to admire the problem very much longer. We have to get to work on finding solutions, moving people to Nebraska, retaining people in Nebraska, matching up the skills, removing the barriers that are keeping people out of the workforce. All of those are elements to reaching solutions or making progress, and the time is now.
Excellent, thank you.
Absolutely. So I think first of all, and we're doing this, is acknowledging the issues that are in our community. We have to acknowledge the issues. We have to open our eyes and really understand what others are dealing with, different than ourselves. Become engaged, whether that be through funding. Sometimes it's easiest to provide funding, and we'll take that. We love it. But also investing your time. You can also engage by that time investment. Being open to sharing best practices. I'm a big believer in don't reinvent the wheel. So if we have programs that are working, if you have ideas that are tried and tested, share those best practices with other communities. Become part of a collaborative in your community. That's where it's going to happen. The collaborative, the partnerships, that's where we can really make a difference. And also, please include those with lived experiences. The individuals that are going through these hardships, that are facing these barriers and challenges, often have ideas. They have experiences that they can share that will be beneficial to the end result, the end work and result that we're hoping to have.
Excellent. And Jennifer, any final thoughts?
I would just reiterate, get involved. Please come partner with us. We will not be able to bring up Nebraska without you. You're incredible, and your intelligence and your talents and everything that you have to offer will be utilized. So thank you for being part of this, Amanda and Casey, because Nebraska children and everything that is going on here to address these challenges is so needed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much to our panelists today for being here and for all of your contributions and the work and the time and effort that you're putting into this. We've really covered a lot today. I hope you've been inspired by knowing that there are a number of people across our state, thousands of people who are actively engaged in helping to improve the workforce here in Nebraska. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. We hope that you learned how Nebraska children and their partners are investing in your workforce, and that we hope that you feel inspired by hearing all of these things too. We leave you with a final video showcasing how we are developing Nebraska's young adults into your workforce. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Youth Initiative provided me with enough opportunities to build my resume and develop my leadership skills. Currently, I am working for Nebraska Appleseed as a business organizer. I'm signing on businesses to support the paid sick leave ballot initiative, and I'm applying to my physician's assistant program.
I have been involved with LEAP and ETV services that have helped relieve financial burdens while I've been in college, so that has been very helpful. I don't really have to worry about working an extreme amount of hours because my tuition and my books are paid for, which is very very nice to be able to have that opportunity, as well as the coaching, which has provided me with a support system that I can reach out to whenever I need and really ask about essentially anything, and that has been very helpful. I've gotten to build relationships with these people, and I count on these people, and yeah, all of these services have really helped push me in the successful path as far as college and careers. I was even offered some internships that I believe are CIY related that did result in my full-time job that I have during the summer, and then during the school year they are very flexible and allow me to work part-time, which is
being involved in all those systems that you mentioned has just really helped me become the stable person I am. I started from coaching services to being on a board and in leadership position to being able to network with other peers and also other professionals as well. So it's been a great change in my life. Yeah, so I have a double master's, one in master's social work, the clinical route, and then the other master's is a public health master's, and I'm currently working as a provisional mental health practitioner in the state of Nebraska. So,
Phenomenal.
very grateful.
Phenomenal. Amazing.